Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you, and it's wonderful to see old friends and to be making new friends. I'd just like to say that it's such a powerful moment to be really celebrating the 10th anniversary of this dream that Diana and Jonathan Rose have had, and I'd just like to give a word for them. And I'd like to just say that, because I know there are some here who are very experienced with the Garrison Institute's work and some who are brand new to it. So I'll just share a personal set of reflections in these few minutes about why would someone like me, who's trained as a scientist, who does work in a clinical field and also tries to synthesize all the different disciplines of science together to try to see how we can help the mind, why would I be a part of what Garrison is doing? And what I want to do is just, because I think it really needs to be underscored that the notion of having a center that takes the process of contemplation, combines it with rigorous science to try to create practical applications to make the world a more compassionate, a healthier, a kinder place to be, is a very unique, not only vision, but actually a vision that for 10 years has been a reality. And so I want to just address from a scientific point of view why these three things, contemplation on the one hand, science on the other, and that if we had a third hand, application, I know that doesn't make sense, but anyway, the three hands we have, why that makes so much sense. And, you know, the reason I have my watch here is because usually I give 8-hour talks, not 8-minute talks, so I know I'm going to say these things very in a short kind of way. So here's what I want to say. We are at a turning point on our planet where we as a human family have created so many automatic systems that are negatively impacting the climate, they're negatively impacting the way a person feels connected in the world, they're negatively impacting the way families can find time to actually raise children the way children need to be raised. There are all these fundamental ways where, for example, in education, we need to be working to help kids grow, not just in families, but in schools. In all these ways, if things continue to go on automatic, then we're going in a direction that actually is not very healthy for any of those systems we're talking about, from the planet to people. And so you can say, well, then what can we do about it? And the reason to begin with contemplation is that the way the human brain adapts is it figures out, what do I need to do to just get along? It goes literally on automatic pilot, and then the systems in which that brain adapts actually get reinforced by the same kind of behavior that brain learned how to do. So in brain terms, the reason contemplation is so profoundly important as a starting place for making a change in the world, which so desperately needs a change, is that everything that we experience in society is created by the human mind, which in part is emerging from this brain. And contemplation is a way in which the mind begins to pause and reflect on its own internal processes. And we now know, partly because of many of the events that have happened at the Garrison Institute, we're sponsoring, for example, the Mind and Life Research Institute, which looks at contemplative neuroscience. We now know, because of this work that Garrison has contributed to, that in fact the act of focusing your mind in a contemplative, reflective way actually changes the structure of the brain. It actually, meditation and mindfulness meditation in particular, actually builds the circuitry of resilience and compassionate relationships. And part of the way it does this is it allows the brain to actually reorganize itself from the way it's just adapting to the automatic systems it's a part of. And the Garrison Institute, in all its wisdom, has actually started with contemplation, not because it's a matter of, that's where you come from, but because each individual needs to begin with this centered place. Now, you say, well, then why bring in science? Well, the vision of the Garrison Institute is to say, well, contemplation is great, but if we're also pursuing not just inner truth, let's see if we can look at a rigorous, statistically provable kind of truth called science. Let's bring it in. And as the Dalai Lama himself has said, if these two worlds can't go together, there needs to be an adjustment, because if both are seeking the truth and they aren't consistent with each other, there's something off. And so the Garrison Institute's vision of actually making sure that rigorous science is applied to everything you heard about, for example, in the 3 initiatives, the idea of transforming trauma and bringing help for the caregivers themselves, bringing resilience to those caregivers. There's a rigorous science about how to go about doing that that's being applied. In the initiative for education, there's rigorous science. Our most rigorous scientists on the planet are literally part of the Garrison Institute's work to see that we can help teachers and help students create the most resilience as those kids and those teachers go through the process of education. And then in the Climate, Mind, and Behavior Initiative, you also see resilience as a theme, where we say, okay, our systems are creating this certain kind of approach, but how can we actually change our course? How can we actually do that? And so the third leg, and the last thing I'll say in the last 2 minutes of my presentation here, is that when you take science and when you take contemplation, and then take this third hand of ours and say, you know something? We actually want to apply the wisdom we learned from contemplation, the rigor we have with science, and actually apply it to make the world a better place. Then you see this incredible thing begin to emerge. And I think part of the unbelievable and almost, I don't even know how to put words to it, the gratitude I feel for being a part of the Garrison Institute. Even though I live in California, I come out here to be a part of what goes on here, because the Garrison Institute is a unique, if you want to think of it as a center of it's a hub that says, you know something? The world is full of a network of people and processes and movements, and we at the Garrison Institute want to be a hub in which all of these movements can find a way across disciplines to begin to communicate with each other and collaborate with each other, all within the setting of developing resilience, developing reflective abilities, and supporting compassionate and kind relationships. And so it's a really a deep, deep honor for me to welcome those of you who are new, to say hi to those of you who are familiar, and really to invite all of you to become a part of Garrison Institute as an extended family. Because if you believe in these 3 hands that we have of taking reflective practice and taking science and applying it to make the world a better place, then you've come to the right place. So thank you very much.